Morning. So let's all begin. So this morning I've been thinking about bringing all of these consciousness stories together. What does it mean in terms of healing? Why? Why do we bother? What do we do? What's it all about? And so I think it comes down to the patterns that make up our lives. We feel that very often we get a bad start in life. Very often we have a bad relationship. Very often we have an absent parent. Whatever the case may be, we have to ask, who are all of these things happening to? And I know that sounds like quite an esoteric question, but it is the question of who am I? Who am I? Really, who am I? So our egos are what really define us. The ego is kind of the container and the driver of our lives. The ego is what makes this experience feel so very real. So I'm just thinking about the ego. I'm just thinking about the ego's place in our world. I'm thinking about how the ego makes our world seem so very real. So as we go through our lives, we have this idea that the things that happen to us on a daily basis are happening to us. That person who said something, they said it about us. That thing that happened, it happened to me. All of these things are seen as being hostile, mostly, or often the events that really seem to change us are taken as being hostile by the ego. Difficult moments in our lives. And our ego sees something and says, oh my God, I hate that. That's a bad thing. The ego puts a lot of judgment onto these things. But the question that really lies behind that is, are you really your ego? And who are you? What are you? So that's what I've been looking at today, on the basis that if you're not actually your ego, if your ego is just a pile of built up ideas, a pile of built up attitudes and things like that, what are you? So the real acid test for the ego is just to look at it very deeply, to look at an event in your life, something that you're proud of, and try and figure out, did you do that? Because when we look at the ideas of consciousness, when we look at something like Taoism, we see that Taoism is seen as a river, information flowing through. and that from time to time, you put your hand into the river and come out with something, and you think it's yours, but it's just a piece of information that's been flowing by that you have been energetically connected to, if you like. And so we often see it referenced in Buddhism, Taoism, and things like that, this idea that events are just events. And it's your relationship to the event that's really important. And so a war starts in Ukraine, and how do you respond to that? What do you do? Do you get angry? Do you start a charity? But the point about it is that you might feel that that is your action. But the truth is that it was something else that led to you making that decision. So if there had been no conflict, then you wouldn't have responded in that way. So it's not really, truly something from you. It's a response to something around you. Okay, so let's take this exercise and just open it up a little bit further. So events occur. Doers do something. But the question is, who is actually doing this? And that is really the point about the whole healing story, is that when we get ill, when we become unwell, a series of events have brought us to that place. And the tumor, the operation, even the broken bone, whatever it might be, there's been a series of events that have brought you to that place, a series of things that you have responded to in different ways. So let's take something like cancer. They say cancer takes 7 years to kind of arrive in your body, 5 years, sometimes 7 years, as long as that. So you think about the job you took that led you to meet, the person, and then the relationship and the toxic job, and things got worse, the relationship got worse, and eventually, the economy changed, and eventually the job became no longer viable, and you lost the job, and you lost the relationship, and then lo and behold, something else comes along, like a parent dies, and now 6 months later you find you have cancer. We look and think, God, I eat well, and I go out for a walk every day, and now I've got cancer. How does that happen? But what you haven't taken into account is the years where you've been deeply stressed, where you've been pushing stones up hills, where you've been not responsible for your thought process, you've just been going along. You've been picked up on a tide of, well, things that appear to be negative for you, because interestingly, those events are just events. And other people might say, oh yes, I worked for that company, but I didn't bother me much, and I left it, and that was fine. Whereas for you, it might be, oh my God, my life was crushed when all of that's finished. And so it's how your ego responds to the events that's really important. So everything in life is just an event. Everything is a result of something else, everything piled on top of everything else. And where do these events come from? Well, that is the Tao, that is the flow of life. All of the events that other people do flow through the world. You do something and it has a knock-on effect with other people. Other people do something, it has a knock-on effect with you. But what triggers all of these events. And of course, people would say, well, that's God's will. That's destiny. That is the Tao. For me, I think, God is a very subjective term. It's a tricky term these days. For me, it's just consciousness, the consciousness of the universe, experiencing life through us. And so it'd be nice to think that we were autonomous. And it'd be nice to think that we were unique. But that's all ego stuff. The truth is that we're just consciousness eventing through the world. There's a new word for you. I suppose not eventing. It sounds like horse riding, doesn't it? It's just consciousness acting and doing. And how do we respond to it? So the question is, when something springs up in your mind, did you think of it? And I think this is what we're going to look at today. So we're going to look at MingJue, which Teach Away often teaches. There's a moment in MingJue where we stop and we try and find where the next thought comes from, which I love. It's a really nice idea. You just suddenly find this idea arises. And we say, shoo. And then you wait for a moment, and then eventually you'll say shoo again. It's the moment before you say shoo. Kind of what triggered that? What was the inspiration for that idea? What brought it about? So it's just a very lovely idea. It's this idea that consciousness occurs through us. Let's just draw a cheek through us at the moment. We feel like we're making all this stuff up ourselves. But what we're actually doing is responding to the flow of events that go through the world. And those events are created by other people, but also some by ourselves. But ultimately, what creates those events is consciousness. And so consciousness tests us. This life that we live in is actually generally all about suffering. It's about testing. It's about lessons. The question is, how do you respond to it? Put the hands in the belly for a moment or two. So this is the really key story, is to look at, take one little event in your life, look and see, did you really make it happen? Who made it happen? How did it occur? One thing leads to another, leads to another. You do something, you think, well, there we are, I did this action. But actually, the point is that the action is the result of many things. The action is sometimes the result of your life patterning. The action is sometimes the result of thoughts that you've had. And eventually a thought pops up and says, right, now's the time to do this. But it's been a long time coming. And sometimes we think, this moment of true inspiration, ping, that light bulb moment where suddenly you think, oh God, yeah. And you feel that you've had an absolute perfect, crisp inspiration. Where does that come from? And that is consciousness arising here in this wonderful 3D dimension. And it arises through you. So you are just an event, starting in 1962, finishing in I'm not going to make that up, finishing in 2052, give myself a good long lifespan. Just an event called Jeremy. The moments of consciousness arising throughout this event, and people responding to this event in different ways. Okay, so let's just do some simple forward and backward bends. We're just going to drift our way down, nice and easy. So when you get down into this bend, just keep the knees soft, let the body relax, the head relax. Gently stretch towards the toes and release the roots of the toes. And release insteps. Release heels. Release and relax. Tailbone lifts behind, tailbone pushes to the front, spine curls up, head, arms, and ears curl up, body curls up, stretch up, blue sky. Release knees and hips forward as you lean back. Gently up and gently back. Up and back. Up and back. Good, let's do our side bends. Drift down on the left. Drift down on the right. Left. And right. And draw the right hand up. Tip over, head, arms, ears. Roll into the upper back, middle back, and the lower back. Keep knees nice and soft as we settle our way down. Just make it nice and easy, nice and relaxed. Extend softly towards your toes. And release. Roots of your toes. And release. Insteps. And release. Heels. Release and relax. Body hangs. Tailbone lifts behind. Tailbone pushes to the front. Scroll the spine up. Head, arms, and ears roll up. Stretch up into the blue sky. Knees and hips go forward. You lean back. Up and gently back. Up and back. Up and back. Now the hands to drift down on the left. Down on the right. Left. And right. And then draw the hands up. We'll do the straight-legged version of this exercise now. So lock the knees, tip over the head, the arms, the ears, and drift down. Work our way down into a comfortable bend, but keep the legs straight and let the body hang. Back of the neck relaxes. Extend towards the toes and release. Roots of the toes and release. Insteps and release. Heels. Relax and release, let the body hang. Tailbone lifts behind. Tailbone pushes to the front, spine rolls up. Head and arms and ears follow. Stretch up into the blue sky. Stretch. Release knees and hips forward. You lean back. Stretching up and gently back. Up and back. Up and back. Simple side bends. Left hand down. Right hand down. Left hand. Right hand. And the right hand up. Last time through with straight legs. Gently drifting over, head, arms and ears, legs stay straight. Let the body hang there. Let the hamstrings gently develop. So as you hang, you relax your head, you relax your arms, your shoulders. Let the body, keep the legs straight, let the body move gently towards your toes. And just feel the hamstrings gently open. Okay, great. Extend towards the toes. And release. Roots of your toes. And release. Insteps. And release. Heels. Release and relax, body hangs. Tailbone lifts up behind, tailbone pushes to the front, spine rolls up, head rolls up to full height. Stretch blue sky. Good. Gently knees forward, you lean back. Up and back. Up and back. Up and back. Left hand side. Right hand side. Left. And right. And draw the hands above the head. Oh, just let the hands pour for a few moments. Feel chi pouring through your body. Releasing the hands down. Let's gather earth chi, lift up. Pour. Just gather the energy back to the belly and stand for a few moments. Lift you up or sit as you wish or lie down if you want. We're just gently drawing chi back to the belly. The hands can rest on the belly, whatever fashion you require. Soft knees, body straight, tailbone tucked, chin drawn back. Body relaxed, mind expand, connecting with the earth and the heavens, feeling your body soft and open. Feeling your interactivity with the chi around. So there are so many layers to this consciousness idea. Ultimately, what I'm saying here is that consciousness drives all of this. So it takes us all the way back to, it's God's will. And that always seems like such a lame argument. It's just God's will that 3-year-old child should die. Just God's will that that block of flats should go on fire. You know, it seems so hopeless and ridiculous. But I feel there is more to it than that. I think that when we're working in this kind of 3D realm, when consciousness is acting through us in this way, we talk a lot about birth and death, the cycle. And so in some religions, they have the ideas of karma, of repeating this cycle, going round, being reborn again, dying, reborn, and changing our energy as we go. And I think for this 3D simulation we live in, that's a perfectly good example. I think I read a wonderful book which was called What I Died, How I Died and What I Did Next, which was a really nice title, written by friends of mine's dad. And then there was another one which is called Life Between Lives. And so the idea is that when we're living in this 3D simulation, when we're alive, time is running. When we die, time stops. The physicality stops, but the consciousness doesn't stop. And so as we play this lovely yin and yang of life and death, as we go through the constant role of our energy experiencing different lives, there's a period before we come back to this game to start again, maybe a millisecond in time experience, or it might be 1,000 years, who knows, because time outside of life doesn't exist. Time is just a tool for living this life, for navigating this life. And so in this no time experience, when we just return back to consciousness, there's a suggestion there that we program our next life, that we actually make an agreement with ourselves that we're going to come back to this next life and give ourselves challenges. I'm going to give myself a tumor, a bad operation, a horrible doctor. I'm going to give myself a wife who hates me. I'm going to give myself 3 unfaithful children. I'm going to give myself a car that always breaks down, And apparently we sort of give ourselves, it's like the player lobby in a game, player number 1, and you equip yourself for your next mission. What are you going to take with you? This time I'm going to take an unfaithful wife, and I'm going to take a leg that doesn't work properly. And so off you go and you play the game, and you get points as you go along, and eventually you die and you come back to the player lobby. What are you going to do this life? Well, I'm going to be a 3-year-old child who dies. Wow, that's a tough one. Yeah, but I get a lot of points for it. And so as we go around this yin and yang of life and death, we apparently, you can choose to believe this or not, we apparently do have some purpose to what we choose for our lives. And the life section, 4 years and 10, appears to be all about suffering. Suffering from this, suffering from that, suffering the next blow, pain, suffering, anguish. But that's because we're pre-programmed. Our egos are programmed to feel these things and to make judgments about them. So this is why we so admire the sage, the wise one, the sabio, is because they've understood this journey of pain and misery, which we call life. They understand that it's just a series of events. And at some level, we might even have pre-programmed those events ourselves to happen. And they just know that. And so rather than someone dying and them suffering deep grief and upset and worry and shame, guilt, whatever it might be, they just see that as an event and say, oh, okay, that person's moved on. But they don't carry guilt and grief and shame and sadness and sorrow. The partner leaves them. They say, all right. They don't carry huge amounts of anger and shame, their pride hurt, because they realize that it's just an event. This is really key. The difference between crashing through life with your ego making judgments and the way a sage would navigate their lives. Just realizing that consciousness works through us, that we are just the tools by which consciousness navigates this 3D universe and learns and learns and learns. Every action you take is part of consciousness. You are just the Tao, the flow. And you might think that I did that, but there is no I. We are just part of the event stream. There are no doers. And so if you start to think about that, then you think to yourself, okay, so the illnesses that I've come with, the problems that I have with my family, with my dead father, the problems that all of these things have caused me are being held in place by my ego, by my patterns. But they were just events. And if I change my relationship to them, then I'm going to change my relationship to my health. If I think for the rest of my days, oh, I feel so guilty about what I said to my father before he died, or that I didn't say that to my father, or that I didn't see my mother on the day that she died. You know, you can carry that every day if you wish. You can access that thought. Every time someone says mother, you think, oh, I should have done that for my mother before she died. And you can keep that story rotating round and round in your life, if you wish. But also you can just see your mother as another event, your mother as part of this stream of consciousness. And just see that everything is exactly as it should be. So you can choose to beat yourself whenever you wish. But is there any point? I suppose consciousness might learn something about it. But actually, it's now time for you to give up those thoughts. It's now time for you to ease off and move away from the ownership of these things and realize that all of the things that have made you who you are just events. And now we need to see that it's the ego that makes us sick. All illness is just a sickness of the ego. How do you relate to the events around you? What filters does the ego put on these happenings? What judgments does the ego place upon these things? When you look at that and you realize that you make this story up and you make up all the things that happen to you and that you make up all the illnesses through the filter systems that you've been given, that you've learned, that you've told yourself. As soon as you see them for what they are, you realize there's no point in holding on to this illness anymore. Let it go. Another event that can just be moved past. And then when we realize the ego is just a tool, is just a container for this bag of rubbish that we carry around in our lives, we can set that down for a little while. Let it be a bit more quiet. Let it not interact. Because when we start to look at the I that we're so certain about, the me, you start to realize there is no I. There is no me. Just a set of filters that react. And that the main driver of all of this is consciousness, or God, however you wish to put it. Just how do you respond to that? So we're going to do a little MingJue meditation. We're going to run through saying Shenji, which just illuminates the center of the brain, the upper energy field. So you say Shenji quietly to yourself, and eventually you'll start to find the center of your head. You'll start to find possibly the pineal or the pituitary, the kind of area where consciousness apparently resides in our body. That's a very mechanistic idea, but you know, it's a starting point. And then afterwards, we're going to go on to Shu and Shu, which is XU, but looks like S-H-O-E-O-O, you know, that kind of shoe kind of idea, like the thing on your foot, like getting rid of a bull. Shoe. We're going to say shoe, but in a very gentle way. And that just cleanses, just refines this feeling of connection to consciousness. Then after a while, I'm going to ask you just to search for the moment before the word shoe arises. And that is where you find the real crystal moment of inspiration. That is the only truth in your life. That moment before a thought occurs. The thought occurs, an electromagnetic pulse goes through your body, the chemical messengers are sent to the muscles move, and eventually your voice says shoo. But where did that inspiration for that moment come from? And of course, it's part of the process that we are in. You don't have to say shoo. And you wait and find the moment where it automatically triggers. So don't worry about trying to stay in time with me. Okay. So I presume by now you find yourself a comfortable standing posture or sitting posture or lying posture. Just the usual little reminders. You can just keep the heels a little bit wider than the toes. You keep the knees softly bent, tailbone gently tucked forward. Lift hoi yin between the legs, just to give us a feeling of containment. Let the hands down. Have a nice long spine. Tuck the chin back a little bit. And then put the hands on the belly. There can be a little ball of qi if you wish. You can hold a ball of qi just in front of lower dantian. You know, very often you just find automatically you slip into doing a little la qi where your hands gently move backwards and forwards. Up to you. There's no right, no wrong about this. So we're going to call for Shenji Palace. We're going to say Shenji. Find a tone that works for you. There are generally sort of two tones. One is chest tone, belly tone. Well, it's probably three, but you know, body tone I think is one of them, which is Shenji, and it feels very much like it's sort of going on in your body. There's also a higher tone, Shenji, which is up in your head, and it just seems to make more sense to me that we use the higher tone. I do, but you know, you can do whatever you like. We use sort of Shenji, which is up in the head, and it gently vibrates inside the head. And the idea would be that it just sort of stimulates and gently finds the position of Shenji Palace for you. Take a slow and gentle breath in. Then we say Shenji. And a little quieter. And repeat it about another half a dozen times in silence in your head. Gently imagine this space deep in the center of your head, slowly illuminating the core of your brain. Gently illuminating every cell of your brain. Gently illuminating all your sensory organs, the skull, the skin, everything, teeth and tongue, throat and neck. This light gently through your shoulders, back, arms to fingertips, spine, upper body, lower torso, illuminated with this beautiful light, working down into the pelvis, your hips and hip joints, thighs, knees, ankles, feet to the tips of your toes. The light of Shenji Palace suffuses every cell in your body. Dissolve from deep inside into the chi field around you. Feel your Wei Qi layer, feel your chi body, feel the chi of nature around you. Allow your whole body to gently glow with chi. The light of Shenji Palace illuminates every cell. This pure information, pure consciousness information penetrates every cell of your body, reinforming your DNA, reminding your body what you want for it. Reminding your body what you really want, not just what life has brought you, not just what you have responded to. Now, what you wish for, changes you wish to make. So we bring our focus gently back to MingJue Palace once more. We're just going to gently say Shu. Each time we say Shu, it gently refines MingJue Palace, makes the chi even clearer, makes our connection to consciousness even clearer. Perhaps it's like a tiny ember. When you say Shu, it just starts to burn a little bit brighter as you blow a tiny bit of oxygen onto the ember. So Shu just gently stimulates this consciousness connection. Take a breath in. Shu. Now examine the point before Shu arises each time. You may even find that you don't want to say Shu. No problem. That rare moment gently becomes pregnant with the idea of Shu, till eventually it becomes a necessity, or not. Let the idea of Shu refine your consciousness connection. So just stay with this consciousness moment for a few more minutes, possibly in silence. Imprinting this idea of consciousness in every cell of the body. Feel your ability to at once be complete consciousness in every cell of you. Now you start to appreciate that life is just lessons. That suffering and pain and hardship are just events. You can take them on if you want. Better just to put them down. Better just to see them for what they are. Just to understand that you are pure consciousness. Testing out theories, playing games, learning. Don't take it personally. Because there is no person to take anything. You are just this beautiful consciousness, flowing like a river, observing the events, and trying not to get them to stick to you, trying to allow them to flow through you. Free yourself today. Free yourself from judgment. Free yourself from choices. Just flow. When something looks obvious, go with it. Nothing's ever a bad choice. Gently allow yourself to be carried by the tide and the time. It's what this lovely event is that we are playing in. Gosh, we take it so seriously though. Need to take it a bit more lightly. Smile. Have fun today. Be soft. Flow. Let go. So let's just extend this idea of consciousness through the body one more time. Because allowing the consciousness into every cell is healing at its deepest level. So consciousness is just absolute love. Unconditional love. Allow this unconditional love to permeate every cell of your body. Just know that as you do so, you can change your genetic build. You can change your DNA. You can change structures that seem impossible to change just in a moment, just by letting go. Anything can shift and change. Great. So if you have your hands away from the tummy, you can gently draw a ball of chi back to your tummy. We can just use a step-on chi to bring the feet back into the Sheneng Qigong posture. And bring the hands up into the prayer posture in front of the heart. Draw the hands up front of your face, up over the crown of your head, extend up into the blue sky. And then let the hands drift a little bit, let your knees soften, open up, little fingers, ring fingers, middle fingers, we split the hands apart, down to shoulder height, we scoop handfuls of chi round to the front, we send chi deep inside the brain, illuminating the brain. Apadantian chi is abundant, blood and chi flowing well. All functions of your brain are ignited by that last practice. All functions working well. Draw the elbows back, allow them to drift under the arms, lightly touch Dao Bao. Send chi deep inside, illuminate middle dantian, flowing chi into your heart, your lungs, your spleen, pancreas, liver, kidneys, abundance of energy in the organs, all organ systems working well. I drift the hands back behind, back of the hands move forwards, turn the palms over with a flourish, wave chi out into the blue sky, gently gather that chi back and draw it deep inside. Hold the hands on lower dantian. Lower dantian chi is abundant, blood and chi are flowing well, all functions of your body returning to perfect working order. The physicality of the body can be changed by this vast store of chi. We fill lower dantian with chi and we fill our bodies with great energy. Healing chi. Let's just rotate the hands around slowly. And that just gathers chi into this center point here. Any excess energy is drawn to lower dantian. Let me go the other way 3 times. And that just helps us to really zone in, to bring the chi deep into the belly, to hold it deep inside. Hold this chi deep inside. Lower dantian chi is abundant, blood and chi flowing well, and all functions of your body start to return to perfect working order. All functions of the body normal. All functions of the body normal. All functions normal. Put a big smile on your face. Imagine your Wei Chi layer, your protective layer. Imagine your chi body connecting you out into the universe. Imagine every cell illuminated from the inside. You a being of light, every cell working well. Put a big smile on your face, let the hands down by your sides. Wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes. Perhaps stretch out. Shake out. Let's all say Haola together, because Haola means good already. Everything fixed. Hands up. 1, 2. Haola. 1, 2. Haola. One more time. 1, 2. Haola. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Really nice to see you guys. Have a lovely sunny day, hopefully.
Thanks,
Bye,
Jeremy.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.